Hi, this is Tom Eddins, Evolutionary Astrologer, here to talk to you about the new moon in Libra on October 6th. So, new moons, this is a time to gain repose, a time to rejuvenate and rest and kind of recenter. It's a time when the sun and the moon come back into alignment with each other and are together. So that part of ourselves, which is our emotional response to the world, which responds to needs and needs for love and nurturing and support and all of these kind of things, stability and are all the moon within us, and our radiance, our being, our essential nature, who we are and how we are, is our sun. And so bringing the sun and the moon together in us is a time of rejuvenation, a time of repose, as I said, of kind of like nighttime comes around and we go to sleep. When the new moon comes around, internally, it's a time of recalibrating, of kind of, it's a sleepy time. It's a time to go into the unconscious, a time to dive into the being side of things and just see what's there. So a good time to pay attention to your dreams, a good time to journal and to just take some quiet time to recalibrate. So this new moon in Libra especially is about peace, and it's about balance, and how are we relating with others. You know, Aries and Libra are on two sides of an axis there. And Aries is, what am I doing? And what am I accomplishing? What do I want? And it's going out and doing something just of our own accord. But Libra is like, well, what do you need? Libra is this sense of who am I in relationship to? And so how can I respond in relationship to others? And how can I understand others, my own and others' needs in the relationship that we have. So a couple things that set up this new moon, there's really a couple key takeaways, and I want to set that up by looking at the different aspects going on. So Mars is conjunct the sun and moon, so that's one that we'll talk about, and it's opposite to Chiron. So that brings in kind of this key axis of healing, if you will, on this new moon. And then that's happening in context of something a little bit larger. That's a conversation between Uranus and Pallas Athena, one of the asteroids. So kind of want to talk about that. How does that conversation set us up for the inner work of this Mars, Sun, Moon, new moon, opposite Chiron? And what's that about? So how does this set us up? Uranus in Taurus here is a big one. Uranus in Taurus has been a big player this year, primarily because of its relationship to Saturn, that it's been in this square relationship with Saturn all year, going back and forth. And Uranus just went retrograde in August, mid-August, and it'll be there retrograde until mid-January. And so there's this sense of, Uranus then is that part of ourselves which longs for freedom, which knows we're free, which knows our inner intelligence. And it is that intelligence as it comes out of ourselves. And so when that aspect in the sky, when it's in retrograde, it's like it's seeking out pockets of frozen energy in us in order to disrupt them, or pockets of too much concentrated energy in order to disrupt it in ourselves. Uranus is a disruptor of sorts, a bringer of freedom and ways to step outside the box of our conditioning or the way we think we have to be. But it also breaks up aspects of stagnation or aspects of accumulation in ourselves. And so that's kind of what it's doing, is looking for that. Where is that? Where do we have this accumulated energy that's not free, that's not expressing our individuality, our uniqueness, and our intelligence in the areas of Taurus-related themes? It's in Taurus. So in the areas of our stability, our security, our value. Where do we store our value? Is our value, what's our relationship to the land? What's our relationship to money? What's our relationship to food in agriculture, which we eat. What's our relationship to peace and contentment? All of these are kind of Taurus themes, and Uranus retrograde then is looking to break this up and to bring this out of ourselves. How can I relate to food, say, take as an example, how can I relate to food in a way that supports who I am, that supports my health and that I enjoy too, and that brings out, my uniqueness. So I like to cook. I cook crazy stuff. I'll cook for breakfast. I'll make like cabbage and broccoli and onions and peppers and mushrooms and all kinds of good stuff. But it's not what we typically eat for breakfast here in America. So I'm breaking out of that. I'm doing it in my own way, and spicing it up how I like it. So Uranus encourages us to do that. It encourages us, and in this retrograde time, it helps us find those places in ourselves where we're not doing that, where we're not coming out in our individual ways and expressing that. So ways in which we're making money, Taurus, we go to work every day like the bull stands in the field. It eats its grass, and it's in the field. Are we enjoying our life? Are we finding ways to enjoy ourselves? Taurus is this kind of sensual enjoyment in life. So how are we spending our time, and what is our relationship to money and our value there? Are we acting in ways that's building that store of value for ourselves, and that we're also able to enjoy our life? Or is it out of balance in some way? These are the kind of questions going on. So Uranus this year has been, as I said, in square to Saturn, and so it's disrupting systems. Saturn is those systems and structures, governance and boundaries in our life. So Uranus is disrupting that this year and really shaking them up in order that we can look at things from a new perspective. And so that's part of the conversation going on. And then Pallas Athena, the other player here that I mentioned. Pallas Athena, one of the 4 asteroid goddesses, but one of the many asteroids that represent parts of ourself that we're working on. And so Pallas Athena is this aspect of our feminine wisdom, an aspect of, how do we understand whole systems? How do we understand the systems we're a part of and integrate that into our life in ways that are, we're receiving the fact that we are part of this whole system, and that we're seeing how it works better together than it does individually. So Pallas Athena is about perceiving whole system wisdom and integrating that in our life. And how are we bringing that feminine receptive wisdom to bear into light in our new relationships that we're developing, the Uranian side, new relationships with freedom, new ways of expressing our individual genius. And so how are we tapping into the wisdom and the light, the courage to step forward and be ourselves? So that's the conversation going on in the background that brings us to bear on this foreground event that is the new moon, with, as I said, Mars Chiron opposite there. So I'm going to pull up the chart, and I've isolated these aspects, and so we can take a look at what I'm talking about. Give you a little visual here is always helpful. And so we have Uranus here in Taurus, as I mentioned, and Pallas Athena is in Pisces. They're sextile to one another. So they're having a conversation here on their own, which is kind of in the background. Like I said, it's 150 degrees on either side to this new moon. So this is an interesting little pattern here where we got this triangular sort of pattern, and the new moon then at the head of the pattern. This is sometimes called a yod or a finger of God, meaning that if you work on this where the finger is pointing, if you work on this aspect, then it opens up the possibility of assistance from the larger aspects here. So there's this sort of larger triangle encompassing this full moon opportunity. New moon opportunity that we're at right now. So let's talk about that a little bit. I talked about that larger conversation, between Uranus and Pallas, and how that has to do with unearthing our individuality and our wisdom, our unique individual wisdom. But how does the individual fit into the whole? So seeing the whole system wisdom come out of ourselves and integrating that in life. And so how do we get a little insight into how better to do that is what really this new moon is about. And so this new moon conjunct to Mars and opposite to Chiron. So let's talk about that for a minute. New moon conjunct to Mars. Mars in Libra. Okay, so this is an interesting color for Mars to wear. It's a shimmering and beautiful color for the warrior to don. And so it's this sense of, Mars is not at home in Libra. Mars is far away from aggressive, assertive Aries that wants to drive forward. Mars is now in a sign that says, okay, hold up, what do you need? What am I stepping into in relationship? And so how can I act from a place of concern for this relationship, for other people, out of a place of concern for higher ideals like justice and balance and harmony and beauty? How can I act out of concern for these things? So this is Mars in Libra. And a lot of that too, it's asking, often we're wanting to take action. It's like, here I am and I want that and I'm going to go get it. But Mars in Libra, in a sense, is like, how do I find balance? How do I act to attain more balance? Brings to mind a concept I know of through Taoism and Chinese medicine. It's this concept of non-doing, that we want to do as little as possible in order that naturalness takes over. That, in the context of healing, you would say, you do as little as possible to get the body back on track, to rejuvenate itself. So in our life, it's the same kind of idea with Mars in Libra. How do I act to come back into balance? How do I do just enough in any situation to move it forward in a balanced, harmonious way? This is sometimes referred to as non-doing. And non-doing is not just sitting around on the couch doing nothing, literally, but it's doing in a way that's imbued with care, and care for the relationship and for the whole systems, in a way, for what am I a part of here, for care for the greater thing that I'm a part of. So doing just enough to integrate into the naturalness, into the spontaneity and the being of what is and what's naturally finding balance, here to use a Libran term. So, and what's coming up at this time too, that we've been in opposition to Chiron, then at this new moon, Chiron is the wounded healer. And so now I'm talking about this over here. Chiron's another asteroid like Pallas Athena. Chiron, the wounded healer. So it's that part of ourself that's feeling the wound. Now this really taps into something greater here, because Chiron in Aries, this is a wound that has arisen from too much aggression. It's a wound that has arisen from a domination mentality. And the earth has been under the siege of this domination mentality for many thousands of years at this point. And it's really coming to a point of tipping the balance back towards companion mentality and community mentality. So as we're moving into the age of Aquarius, it's an age which brings out the unique uniqueness, the unique genius in each, but it's also an age that looks to the community and what binds the community together and what benefits all people as a community, as a one world, if you will. So there's that as well. We're in this big shift and transition into this age of Aquarius, which is Uranian ruled. So the things we were talking about with regard to Uranus a minute ago kind of put us in a bigger context as well. And all of this, where we find ourselves today, this situation we find ourselves in relates greatly to this Chiron in Aries, to this, what is the wound of domination and aggression that we are now dealing with collectively. How do we deal with that? How do we come back to our collective center point and find that balance? Talking about Libra. So that's where this is really the heart of this conversation. And if you can find a little bit of resonance and balance in yourself at this new moon, it puts you in a position to receive the assistance of sort of this outer triangle that I was saying, the larger conversation that's going on. It aligns you with a greater shift that's going on. So finding that balance point, what can I do as an individual to do that? A lot of that's just taking care of myself, eating well, sleeping well, resting well, dealing with stress, moving well. All these things are so important in Libran kind of things. How do we find the balance? How do we find the center point? Maybe I need to meditate for 10 minutes a day. Maybe I need to meditate for an hour or more, but just 10 minutes a day. That's going to bring you back towards your center consistently. Do it every day. Consistency is really the key rather than length there. And in that time, whatever you decide to do, how are you finding your balance? Maybe it's going and taking a 15-minute bike ride every day. Maybe it's going to the gym and working out. It's a very Mars thing to do. But maybe it's doing something relaxing. It's maybe it's doing some art. That's a very Libran thing to do. So, but setting and taking that time for yourself to find that balance point. This new moon is a time to really decide on that for yourself. What can I do for myself that's going to bring me into my center and into a place of greater balance? Because then everything you do is going to have more impact, and it's so much better. And so what we'll find at that balance point, and with this new moon, it has to do with that Chiron, that woundedness. So, we may have been wounded by aggression in the past. Maybe we've been too aggressive in the past, and we're finding our softer place now. And that's a good thing. Or, if we've been wounded by aggression, maybe we're finding our power in this point. And it's just in recognizing that we're not powerless and that we're not meant to come here and destroy each other, that we're in dominate and control other people, that we're here as part of a community and as part of a star community, as something great, so much bigger than we realize. And so healing these wounds is really important, and finding our voice, finding our appropriate level of Aries, our appropriate level of assertion, of individual expression. Aries is a strong energy, and it's a positive energy. It's loyal, and it's active, and it's very bright and valiant and virtuous in its high form. So where do we find those things in ourselves, if not in their attachment to the center, or in their coming forth from a place of wholeness? And so seeking to find the healing of this Chiron in Aries. And the more we do this, the more we'll bring out the mentorship of what does that look like? What does a healthy, balanced, Aries energy look like? And so that's really, we have this Mars in Libra, Chiron in Aries that we're dealing with this new moon. So finding that inner balance and repose, and finding our Mars energy in our center. Our energy to act. Mars energy is our, what do I desire? What do I want? And how can I come from that, from a genuine place of caring for the relationships I'm in. That's kind of the core conversation. And as I said, then looking into the bigger conversation going on has to do with this Uranus in Taurus. So coming to new viewpoints around our values in a relationship to the earth and to our food and our our money and our land and our homes and all these such things, and our sense of simplicity and just being in our body, coming back to embodiment, that bull out in the field on the earth, enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the blue sky and the earth, the pretty grass and the air and everything. All of those Taurian kind of ways of enjoyment. But how are we rearranging things in our life? How are we reorganizing systems around what we value and the value that the earth has to offer? The earth is really calling out to us right now and asking us to reconsider, to revalue where we come from and who we are, because we are of the earth. We are nature. We don't need to figure some wacky things out to go live on Mars or just do crazy stuff. We're here on the earth, and the earth will heal us. We just have to rectify our relationship to the earth. We have to bring it back into alignment to know that we are children of the earth and the sky. And so finding that alignment is where health comes from, and happiness, and all of those things we seek. And thus, here we are in this new moon in Libra, finding that alignment, aligning with peace. So that is the takeaway, I believe. Finding the alignment, finding your peace, understanding that Mars, our Mars energy, our desire and our assertion, our ability to go out and accomplish things, it comes from our heart, from being in our Centerpoint, from realizing that we're acting in relationship and that our actions will come back to us. And that so when we take action to begin with, if we can take all that into consideration and act from a place of our feminine wisdom, our wisdom of being a part of a whole system, and then integrate our unique genius. What are you like, that's unique? So integrating these things. Okay, I hope you get a little time this new moon, and I hope you will take some time and ask yourself, how can I come into my center more? How can I find more regular alignment and act from my heart, live in my heart, and extend that to the people I love, people I'm in relationship with. So that is the end of this new moon video. Please subscribe to my channel, Whispering Waters Wellness, on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram as well. And like the video if you like what I'm saying, and I'll keep coming at you. Hope to see you soon. Take care. Much love.